What's up, guys? Welcome to this week's video. We are now beginning the part of the build where it's not my strong suit. That is the wiring, the electrical. I'm not really savvy when it comes to how all of that works. But thankfully, companies like Dakota Digital, DIY Hemi, no, they're not sponsored. I just really I appreciate their company. They're a small business. I like what they're doing. But thanks to companies like them, Dakota Digital, as well as awesome groups like the Hemi Swap page on Facebook, it makes it easy for a guy like me, or at least easier. So that's what we're going to be doing this week. We're going to be pulling some wire. We're going to try to get this thing wired. Just to kind of update on where you are, the Super Bee also has electrical issues. It's one of two things. Either this thing's not charging, or this thing, the voltage regulator, is not sending volts. I don't know which one. They told me when I stopped at O'Reilly's that day that it's this. But I put my tester to the back of this, and that's not putting out charge either. So I don't know. I'm just going to pull the alternator off, take it to town, let them test it, and we'll go from there on that. Probably won't video that. That's just, super stuff. The white truck is done and already sold. Sold it last night, so waiting on the guy to come pick that up. The truck turned out really good, and that is going to fund easily the rest of this build and a big portion of our home remodel. So, and yes, if you don't know already, we are beginning the remodeling of our house. So I've got two things going on. I'm a busy person at this moment. Here's what we're shooting for this video. Here's what we got. So we've got the factory wiring harness here. We've got to get it laid out, first of all, and cleaned up. We ordered new wire loom to get rid of this plastic hard rib stuff. We got this kind, the soft kind here. So we're going to be kind of cleaning this up, re-looming it, all that kind of stuff, making it look a little more presentable. This is the harness from Sublime, our DIY Hemi. That's got our fuse panel. This will plug in to, we've got fuses that will plug into also the main harness there. And right here is our new ECM. So we got this, we got a mount. So, and this has been programmed, delete the MDS and all that kind of stuff like that, all the security stuff, all that's gone, to where it's just a simple, engine control module. So we got that. We've got a gas pedal that has to be put in because the Hemis are drive-by-wire. So we have a gas pedal for a 2008 Dodge Ram right here. And if you order your harness from Sublime, this is going to be one of the questions you get asked. There's 3, I think, different plugs for the pedals. And you just have to look and see which one you have. So we have this one. So got that. We've got our control box for our Dakota Digital and our Dakota Digital. I don't know if I ever showed you guys. We've had this in for a while. It's a heavy unit. But, yeah. So we got that. So I've got a basic idea of, I've been reading the manual and studying over it, kind of got a good gist of what needs to be done. But today I am mentally exhausted. We've had a crazy busy week with church and funerals, and just been a lot going on this week. And so I want to work on termite. I haven't been able to do anything on termite for the last couple of weeks because I've either been mechanicking, painting, churching. I've been just doing so much. And we finally got the shop back in order. Termites back in the live spot. Bees back over here. And so we're getting back started. I do want to get something done. And so I'm just going to take it easy today and get the dash pulled out. We're going to get termites dash removed. And we're going to get the Dakota Digital installed, which is, that has to be done first. So we're going to get that in today. And over the course of the next few days, we're going to get the harnesses laid out. And we're going to start plugging this thing up. And once the wiring's done, man, we're getting so close. We may in this video even, you guys may even see these get painted. I still haven't done that yet, but I got ambitions to do those. So anyway, let's start pulling the dash out. All right, so you can see the differences between the two clusters. This one has all of your gauges, like your oil pressure, all that kind of stuff, is all in one area. Speedometer, and then you have a tach. And so that's a really cool option, the ability to have a tach. And then of course your odometer, all that stuff is gonna be digital now. Your clock, all that kind of stuff is there. So you can see it fits in there. It's gonna fit in there really well. I know plenty of people. This is also like an aluminum housing versus this one just being really nothing there but plastic. It all comes off easy. Just get you a little flat head. When you do your long connector here, just kind of don't go crazy with it. I just always kind of work it just to get it loose as well as your round one. The only part I had trouble with was this little screw here, not wanting to come around behind the light switches and stuff, but just keep working with it. I loosened up the AC controls thinking I could kind of get back behind here, but I guess if you pulled it all the way out, you could, but I just kept working with it and it came on out. So here's all of our wires that I need to go through these to see what we need, what we don't need. We don't really need anything necessarily. So that's probably going to take me the most time, is going through these wires as well as the original engine harness that goes out, that runs, you know, like your alternator, your temp gauges, all that kind of stuff. We don't need any of that. All of that will be run separately. So kind of thinning out this harness. I don't want to go into it hacking and just cutting wire and all that kind of stuff. I want to try to depin or just unhook and I don't like just going into harnesses and just hacking away. I want to try to do it as neatly as possible. So a lot of this is going to be me thinking and looking at wires and seeing what I can cut out, what I can get rid of, what needs to stay. Because I don't want to just not do any of it and just have wire everywhere. That is unnecessarily in the car. That would make, if we had to do any kind of working on it in the future, would make it that much more difficult. So minimal, clean, simple, that's what we're shooting for. So, all right, well, I'm going to see what I want to do next. I don't really want to just go ahead and throw the gauges in. That's going to be easy. 4 screws and it's back in. And then it just hooks up with one plug on the back. That's it. So, and then that of course will go to, where's the box at? We got stuff everywhere, right here. So that will run to here, to our main power bank source. That's got all your stuff. You can see fuel sending unit, all that kind of stuff. It's going to hook into that. So real simple. All right, just kind of show you where we are. So using the back of the original panel and looking at our circle plug here, all of our indicator lights, and then just kind of knowing which ones were which on the front, on both sides. You kind of reference to see which one of these are what in here. You also can use websites like Tom's Old Jeep. They have all wiring diagrams on there. You just put in what you got. You can find your wiring diagrams on there. So kind of using all of that combined, I was able to, I believe, decipher what we need. So when you hook up these Dakota Digitals, this is not a tutorial on how to do that. They got really good instructions. But here's our circle plug. So what I did was I went through and I labeled, like that's our brake light. There's our transfer case 4-wheel drive light. We got our fuel sending wire, our left turn signal, our bright or dim, whichever one you want to call it, and your right turn signal. That's what plugs in there to light these indicators. And so on your box, these are all going to plug in here. You got your transfer case, right turn signal, left turn signal, high beam, brake light. We ain't worried about check engine lights. Don't know about any of these. I do want to put cruise on termite, but I haven't figured cruise out yet. That's going to be something in the future once all this is done. So the other day, I didn't film this, but I got my oil pressure for the Dakota Digital mounted, and the factory is still there. That's just on there. We just went and got a T, 1/8 inch T, and screwed it into where the original one went in, and that way I can have both of these sensors. I don't know if the ECM even needs to know what the oil pressure is. I don't know, and I couldn't really find anybody say yes or no on that. So I just put a T in it, and they'll both be hooked up. The coolant temp sensor is next up, and all these are just sitting on there. Tried to do a T down in here, but it's way too compact. Plus, it would have come up and hit our AC compressor. So thankfully, DIY Hemi sells a spacer that goes right here that has 2 ports for you to be able to screw a sensor into. So this is our sensor here. It's got an adapter on it. We won't need that adapter. But once that comes in, it'll probably mount somewhere like right in here or something like that. I don't know. We'll have to get it here and see. But so that's coming in. That will mount our temp sensors there. I just kind of laid the harness out on the engine just to kind of get an idea of where everything's going to go. Make sure that none of the wires were cut whenever they removed the engine, because these were. And so I had to figure out what all these were, where they went. Got that figured out, not a problem. Just had to make sure nothing else was cut, and everything else seems to be good. But today, I'm going to try to get the ECM mounted. There's a lot of options. Well, not really here. If you run the whole situation with none of this, obviously that's a good place. I know some guys put them here, but I'm thinking, why not right back here, right behind the intake back there on that firewall. It's a flat, open spot. There's nothing else there. And I think that's the most out of the way, inconspicuous spot possibly to put it with what I have. All right, guys, it is down to the wiring harness day. Andrew's out here in the shop, and we've laid it out. We've studied everything, figured out where everything goes. We've got the starter and the alternator, kind of your charging system, that harness over. We're gonna have to redo that because the battery's on opposite sides and stuff like that. So we're not worried about that. This is just kind of the main engine harness here. So what we're gonna be doing is all of this stuff that's either missing or dried and crunchy, see how it just busts up, we're gonna be replacing it with this nice looking stuff. We just got these off of Amazon. And we've got fabric tape as well. And just gonna kind of clean the harness up, make it look nice. We're going to be getting rid of this plug. This is to your original transfer case switch that went inside the truck, and that runs all the way around to right here. This hooks to the electronic transfer case. We don't need this at all. So we're going to be pulling this out, but we will be leaving one wire in there because we do need a wire running to our transfer case for the 4x4 light to come on. So we're just going to hijack this one, leave one in there, hijack it, and we'll hook it up and have that wire already run. This wire is for the MDS. We don't need that, so we'll be removing that. And just kind of, that'll just kind of help thin the harness down. I think it's about 10 or 11 wires that we'll be able to cut out of it. That's not huge, but, you know, while we got it opened up anyway, might as well remove them, kind of thin the harness out some. So we're just going to set you guys up on a time lapse and get to watch us cut this thing open and make it look better. Having fun?
I actually don't hate it. I really don't actually hate this part because it's like cleaning it and organizing it.
How dirty are your hands?
Well, I keep wiping them off. I got that rag.
Mine are dirty.
Well, I've washed them twice, so
yeah,
pretty dirty for washing them twice.
And I've also been going through this harness, the original FSJ harness, and thinning it out. I've got what I believe here. All these can go, I believe, because they're like. And I found out why our oil pressure gauge never worked. So So could explain why our oil pressure gauge never worked. And all of that was like wrapped up into the harness, and I never did care to undo it to look. I knew it had oil pressure because it was running. So.
And then he just says, I hope I cut the MDS off.
Yeah, I think that was MDS plug. We just cut all, we pulled a bunch of wire out. I'm pretty sure it was MDS. Maybe it wasn't something we need.
Do you feel good about it?
That's the easy one, though.
What?
Well, it's the engine harness. It's pretty self-explanatory.
We have another one to do?
Gotta put the Sublime run harness in. We gotta sort through this, which I think I've pretty much got this. Like this green and yellow wire right here are gonna hook to, I believe, these two wires right here. And that will go transfer case to inside. But then we gotta take, there's wires that adapt from that will plug into, some of it will plug into this, but we gotta have one that will run to the starter. You know, just, one that's gonna run up here to this to trigger this when we turn the AC on. So, it'll just have to be some splicing and tying in, but I mean, it's not bad. This is the biggest harness.
Okay. My fingers hurt.
Yeah. But it's plugged up. Everything's in there.
It looks clean.
Yeah. That looks way better than that plastic. This stuff.
Corrugated. Yeah. Yeah.
The fabric kind bends a lot easier. It looks much, much better. I do not like the EGR. That's a pre-Eagle head thing, but they say you can take them off, but your fuel mileage isn't going to be great. So we're just going to run it. All right, well, I did not want to cut the plug, but the pins that I ordered here, we're hoping that they would fit and plug right into it, but they're too small. And there's just no way of knowing what size these were to compare. So I just ordered the biggest thing I could find, which was those, and they were just too loose in the plug. So, seeing as how I'm never gonna put the old dash back in, and even if I had to, I left enough there where I could splice back into it for the plug if I wanted to, or somebody in the future wanted to. But what I did was, they're obviously marked, labeled, snipped them, and these came with a male-female connection. That is a real nice connection. You got the female side here, the male side here, and these wires I just have into a little loom that runs over here to this side, and that will hook to the box here. Some other wires are going to be coming in about midway through the dash and going over there as well, but these are for the ones that are just to this spot here. And so I got some heat shrink on here, and so what I'll do is, once I have all my wires labeled on my list as to what color wire went where and what that did, I'll slide the heat shrink over it and seal it down to where it's, you know, not gonna make touching contact, and we should be good. And I can actually put the dash back in. All right, well, she's in. Looks really good. And I obviously haven't put the trim piece back on yet, but it looks factory. I mean, other than the fact that you've got a tack on this side and all your gauges are kind of put into this one section, but I mean, it's such a nice piece. All of this is like aluminum, so not the plastic and stuff like that, like the original one is. So this one will just go up on the shelf, and we've got all of our wires, including our main wire that runs to the back of the gauges. All of this will go down, and for right now, we're probably just gonna hook the box up, this one, and just let it lay down there till we get all the gauges, make sure everything is right. And then once, you know, everything is good, all the gauges check off, because this is gonna sit on top of the AC box and all that kind of stuff. So we wanna get all that checked off, and then once that looks good, and then we start moving forward with the AC stuff, that'll get mounted and tucked up in there nice and neat. So, and I'm I am even maybe considering putting it in the glove box. I've actually been considering that, just in case I do need to get to it. It would be a lot easier to access in here, but I hadn't made up my mind yet on that. But either way, it's in, and now we move on to getting all of this hooked up to this, and yeah, so we're getting there. All right, so we got our transfer case light switch in. We just pin this plug up to meet the switch, so that runs up to our light. The other wire goes to a ground. We've also got our speed sensor in and tightened up. So now we're going to move up here and try to see about dropping a pin into that big plug right there so we can have backup lights. All right, guys, I'm going to explain to you about the reverse lights on these, because it was a challenging answer for me to find, and I'm not 100% sure that this is the answer. I've been told that it is, and it seems like it's going to work, but we won't know for sure until we power the thing up. But on your main harness that goes and plugs in right here, there is a pin in this for a backup light feed, and it is on number 6. There's just plenty of charts out there that show the same picture over and over. So there's a feed in there, but there is no pin right here where my thumb is. There's no pin in there, as you can see, in this one right here. That's number 6. So don't know what the deal is, but anyway, all we got to do is drop a pin into that slot and run that up to the backup light feed on termite, the wire that normally does that on the transmission hookup, and we should have reverse lights. Now, what I'm doing is, I'm learning all this electrical stuff, y'all. This is all new for me on these cars, but went on Amazon and bought me a D-pinning kit. You don't need one of these, but it was like 11 bucks. Figured why not? So I took that. I took apart the original transfer case plug that we don't need because it had an electronic transfer case and we're manual now. So I just took apart the other end of this. I don't know where it is up here, but here's the lock cover for it. And I de-pinned one of the pins, and it's this one. And we're gonna run this wire. I'm gonna solder a wire to here, put a rubber seal deal on it. I got stuff scattered everywhere out here. There's one on this table somewhere. Anyway, I'll have to find that. Anyway, one of the little rubber seals, and we should be able to push this in to the back of this harness, up into here, click it into that number 6, plug it up, and should be able to have a backup light feed. So that's what we're doing. Again, we won't know 100% of that will work until we got a battery and we actually power the system up. But that seems to be the consensus out there. So you need to check, because apparently some of the 545 RFEs do not have that pin. So thankfully this one does. So that's what we're doing for backup lights. All right, guys, getting ready to mount the gas pedal. These have an electronic gas pedal. The plug goes in there. Well, there goes the bolts for it. I just took a piece of plate that I had, and this is the original spacer for the original gas pedal. You can see where the rod went through there. So I'm just going to use this to go behind my plate to push it out from the firewall. And will also kind of put my gas pedal in a similar proximity to where it was. So I mounted it, then I just kind of took the gas pedal and set it up there, got it kind of where it looked like it would clear all the way down, and drilled some holes. Pretty straightforward. I welded my nuts onto the back here so that I wouldn't have to fight trying to get behind it. And then of course we just got some Allen head bolts here that will go through the front. So that's my compressor that you hear running in the background. So anyway, I'm gonna get this bolted up, plugged up, and we'll have gas pedal done. All right, it's in there. Yeah, I mean, pretty straightforward. We've got good pedal movement all the way to the floor. So, and it's comfortable. I set up and it just felt like it used to. So, pretty simple, pretty straightforward. And we have a gas pedal. All right, guys, well, battery. I had to kind of go with a battery that would fit the original tray, but also had enough cranking amps. So O'Reilly's had this one. It's got 650 or 640 cold cranking. 628 was the minimum, they said, for this engine. So we ought to be good there. It fits into the tray. I do have to go get longer J-bolts, though, for the bracket there. It's a little bit taller of a battery. But we also got a belt on. But I hooked that up. Dome lights, everything began to ding inside because I had stuff open over the last couple of months. And I wasn't even thinking. I got in here and I hit the key and fuel pump kicked on. I was going to kind of let y'all be the first to see that with me, but it kicked on, primed up, shut off just like it was supposed to do. So I'm going to see if this thing will turn over. Let's see what it does. You hear the pump? Hey. Hey. All right. So the starter works. I don't see no fuel leaking. I don't smell no fuel. But, so we're very close. All I got left to do, I think, you know, it's weird when you do research on stuff, you can't find an answer. So you just go with what you think is right. And then once you've bought stuff, then you find that person who answered the question that you were looking for forever. So anyway, what I'm getting to is I don't think that I need this little box in here. And look, we got a light. I don't think I need this because I need to read one cylinder because we're reading off of one coil wire. So I bought that thinking that this box wouldn't do that because from what I understood, it wouldn't. Well, I don't know how I didn't see this reading today. It will read down to one cylinder. So I don't think I need that little box. So I'm just going to skip it and hook the big box up, which is all I got left is a 12-volt switch, and it will kick on, and all this will kick on. So I'm going to hook that up, and that should be all we need, and I can send that box back. So that's $110, I think is what we paid for the thing. So get our money back on that. But we got battery. I still got to ground this to the body. I think I'm gonna hook it here on this bolt here that goes into the clip. So I'm gonna ground that there. But I got a ground down to the chassis, and I took paint off there. Got a good ground there. Got a good ground to the engine block. These are the factory cables. I had to trim this one to our power block, and I had to trim this alternator wire to the power bar. So those are all hooked up. So again, I think everything up here is kind of good to go. I have to figure out how to do this with those two big wires. I might have to cut that off or something. But anyway, it turns over. All right, fuel pump kicks on. It turns over. I'm gonna have to wait till Angie gets home if we're gonna try to fire it, because I think she'd be upset if I fired it and she wasn't here. But I have no fluid in the power steering pump. There's obviously no radiator in it. So I'm kind of hesitant to fire it. And even if I did, it wouldn't run but just a second. So anyway, but hey, it's positive. God, there's life in this thing again for the first time. So I'm gonna keep plugging away at it, and I'll check back with you guys in a second. All right. Well, I just got all of this hooked up. And we have a flashing light. I don't know if you can see it. Where'd it go? So it's doing something. I got my 12-volt switch out of the old cruise control pack. The brown and white wire is a 12-volt ignition. So that's not as neat of a connection as I wanted it to be, but it's tight. It'll work. I'll clean it up a little bit before we tuck it all in there. So now let's see if these do something. Yeah. They all come on. Looks like the battery voltage is reading. Nice. I don't expect fuel or nothing like that, because you see it saying set fuel sender. So, all right. So that's on. Just going through the list, guys. As much as I would love to start it, I don't have lines in the transmission coming out. I have them. I just haven't put them in yet, but I know that could start dumping fluid out. I got none of this is hooked up. I mean, I'm not saying I'm not gonna fire it before the end of this video, but I love to just hear it bust, just to hear it bust off, and I can shut it off real quick. I would just love to hear it. So we'll see. All right, guys. Well, it is a new day in the shop. I got a lot of plans today. Busy day in here. I've got my buddy's Camaro back in here. I painted this whole front bumper. I'm getting that all put back on. And so I get that took back to him. Does have an LS in my shop. It's a pretty built little motor. It's got some pretty serious chop to it. But I'm getting that done and get that back over to him. We're going to get the front clip put back on termite today. So that we can start measuring for radiator and getting all that stuff plumbed. Get this thing plumbed out. So clip's finally going back on. So it's actually going to look like termite by the end of the day today, which I'm very excited about. And I've got a little bitty fuel leak where back here on my return line, the return here has a little bit of a leak. So I'm going to be getting that tightened up and just try to get that done today. I'm going to try to measure for drive shafts and just, so I got a busy day today, but I'm going to get Wayne's car done so I can get that took back to him. And then I'll be back and Andrew's going to come out. We're going to get the front clip slapped on termite. Well, there she is. It is coming back together. Got the whole front. It's all tightened up. Everything's on there. I went ahead and clipped the parking lights back in. I'm gonna wait and put the headlights in because we gotta still run, you know, the winch pipe ground. We gotta run AC lines, so it's just easier to be able to reach in there and do. So I'm not gonna put the headlights in just yet. But I did test everything. All the lights work. I got the radio, all those yellow wires, the circuit, that's all for the relay kit for the headlights. All that's hooked up. Everything's good to go there. I'm still going to wait before I loom this till we fire it, just to make sure everything is doing what it's supposed to be doing. But trying to run it as neat as possible. I wish I would have run this line under this wire, but I didn't. And the winch switch is going to be right here anyway, so it ain't going to matter. But the headlight, we reloomed all of the headlight harness. Got rid of this just the old dry rotted, crunchy, dirty old hard stuff. You can see it was all in just nasty pieces. So we reloomed all of that. Got that in there and all run down neatly across. So all that's good to go. So guys, I guess that's going to pretty much wrap up the wiring video. Because at this point, it's pretty much wired. I mean, there's not really anything left necessarily to do until we fire it and we can test everything and make sure everything's all right. We've got our hoses on order for the hydro boost. Those are supposed to be in this week. It's Saturday now. Monday morning, I'm going to order radiator, trans cooler, get those coming. And at the moment, I'm about to slide underneath and measure for drive shafts. We got a really good local drive shaft shop. I've never used them, but everybody that has around here loves them. So I'm going to get with those guys because they're over in Laurel. They're not very far from us at all. So I'm going to get them to see, kind of get them looking at the drive shafts, maybe get them to do those. But, man, we're so close. Once the radiator's in and we get the cooling system hooked up, hydro boost hooked up, transmission lines hooked up, we can go ahead and fire this thing up. And I think it's going to fire right up. I don't think there's going to be any issues. And once drive shafts are in it, I'm going to take it to my buddy's muffler shop and get some mufflers put on this thing. So we're very, very close to driving this thing. So anyway, guys, that's our wiring video. It took about 3 weeks to film, maybe a little longer. This is probably going to be one of the longest videos we've ever posted. Thank y'all for hanging in there if you're still with us. I'm not a wiring guy, but I've learned a lot. And I'm not saying I'm an expert at it by no means of the imagination, but it was, once you get it, once it's in your mind and you get everything, it's all right. So, anyway, thank y'all as always for watching, man. Give us a like and a subscribe. We are very, very close to 2,000 subscribers. We were like, I don't know, 70-ish, 60, 70, something like that away. So if you're watching this, you enjoy the content, we do XR stuff. I was supposed to go on a ride today. There was a big ride down in DeSoto, and just we've got to get termite done. And so today was one of those things. I had my buddy's car to get done. I had to get that out of here, and I was like, you know, as much as I want to go ride, I haven't just had a lot of time during the week to work on termite. I know this coming week is going to be the same because I got a big job I got to go do. So I'm like, you know what? As much as I want to go ride, I think I'm just going to stay and get this all done. Get the wiring wrapped up, and we did. So, but we do riding videos. I've been wanting to go ride some more. So maybe here in the next week or so, I will be able to break away and go ride. I want to do a ride and camp. I really been wanting to get out and camp. We ain't camped in a while. But anyway, guys, it looks so good being back together. Looks like termite again, with the exception of no hood, but still, man, looks so much better. Plus, I have all this room for activities now that there's not a motor or a front clip or fender wells. So we just got the carnage of what's being chopped out between the two motors over there. Anyway, guys, I'm gonna quit rambling. Thank y'all as always for watching. See y'all next week.